Alright, so continuing on my previous Intel video, which apparently was very, very interesting because we had mixed responses, bullish investors, extremely bearish investors, and ignorant investors as well. And that's fine, that's fine. Of course, with all the negative headlines around Intel more recently, makes sense that a lot of people make their conclusion before actually doing any research. Okay, can you blame them? Yeah, maybe, but that's just the way things work today, I guess. Anyways, quick recap here. Intel right now, market cap $84 billion, stock price under $20. Year to date, the stock is down 60%. In the last 3 months, the stock is down 35%. Of course, the big drop because of that horrible, horrible guidance. And year over year, the stock is down close to 50%. Now, this is basically Intel's business over the last 10 years. You can see that over the last 10 years, up until here, the peak, I would say 2021, 2022 for revenues. That was the peak. Revenue grew nicely, okay? Grew in line. Free cash flow was basically flat throughout a lot of these years, and then peaked around 2020. And this was already a sort of orange flag because a company like Intel should have increased free cash flow, not by a lot, but free cash flow should not have been flat for, well, close to 10 years, right? That's crazy. Then, of course, Pat came in and he noticed that he had to turn this whole ship around. Now, a lot of people are blaming Pat right now, the current leadership. They should be fired because the stock is down. No, they came in because the previous CEOs, not just CEO, but the two previous CEOs did such a bad job. They did not invest like AMD and NVIDIA in the future. They did not think about, AI might be a thing, data centers might be a thing, actually our CPU technology is not really a leadership product anymore. Look at AMD, they're moving quite fast. No, what's more important is actually dividend payouts and share buybacks, despite the stock being already expensive. So yeah, don't blame Pat for trying to change a lot of things in Intel. It's taking a while, but he did say he came in 5 nodes, 4 years, and is delivering on that. That was already quite something. It's true, the foundry side of the business is taking a little bit more time. They're outsourcing quite a lot to TSMC, 3 nanometers and stuff like that, which in my opinion is a positive thing because that means that the current and upcoming products for Intel are going to be leadership products. So that's great. Gaudi 1, Gaudi 2 was, let's be honest, a flop. Hopefully Gaudi 3 will perform a little bit better. But since Pat came in and tries to turn this whole ship around, yes, revenue has gone down, free cash flow is non-existent anymore, return on invested capital has gone from around, 19, 18% or so, 13, 15% even, to now just 0.82% in the last 12 months. Not great. Gross profit has come down as well, and so has net income. So yes, it's true. It's true. Intel's business, if you're only looking at, let's say, the last 3 years, which is, of course, Pat 2.0, then you will probably come to the conclusion that it's all his fault. But no, you have to look at the big picture. You have to look at why Intel is in the current position. It's not because of Pat, maybe a little bit because of him, because of the plans and the restructuring and the flip-flopping every 3 quarters or so. Maybe, or maybe he's just overly optimistic. But the big damage was done by the previous management. But despite all of that, and I've made this point already in part number 1, which will be in the top right corner, I'm still quite bullish on Intel. I'm not yet willing to put in a lot of money, while increasing my position by quite a lot. For that to happen, I will need to see a quarter and guidance that are much, much better than expected. And I think we'll still have some time until that happens. So currently I still have a small position. I did buy a little bit more of shares under $20 just to bring my average down. And of course, because of the Lunar Lake announcement, which I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Now, if you enjoy this type of videos or don't enjoy this type of videos, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs down, do whatever you want. Subscribe if you enjoy it. And if you want to support me even further, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment with the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. Thank you very much. Now, the first part around Intel was the fact that I said it's too big to fail. I still think it's too big to fail. Yes, maybe the Titanic was also too big to fail and they didn't take the iceberg into consideration. But let's be honest here, how can we compare the Titanic to Intel? Intel is very important to the United States, to the government, and even to Europe as well. Plus, more recently, we've had this announcement here. Intel solidifies $3.5 billion deal to make chips for military. Of course, $3.5 billion in the grand scheme of things might not be a lot of money, but again, it just shows that, well, Intel has some power in the US government and military. So the agreement may be announced as soon as next week, according to Bloomberg. The funding would add to $8.5 billion in grants and $11 billion in loans that Intel received in March through the CHIPS and Science Act. By the way, the CHIPS Act, the money that they should be getting, is still not at Intel, according to the CFO. So we'll see what happens. Now, before continuing with the Intel part, of course, we have to talk about one of their main competitors, which is AMD. And AMD, over the last 10 years or so, it's basically the exact opposite. 10 years ago, AMD was pretty close to bankruptcy. Lisa Su came in, new management came in, and they completely turned that ship around. Of course, that was a smaller ship to turn around, so no Titanic, just maybe a sailboat or something like that, or a catamaran, whatever. But yeah, over the last couple of years, AMD has done quite well, especially when you look at data center revenue, which is the blue part right here. We are seeing that finally actually continue to accelerate. Of course, market share wise, it's the majority NVIDIA, and then we've got AMD here. Now, with regards to the client revenue, that has been, well, the overall market, not just Intel, but AMD as well, has suffered from that. And the same for gaming. We've seen this fact with NVIDIA as well. Gaming has not been performing that well, but the client revenue is quite big for AMD. It's their second biggest segment. And with the so-called refresh cycle, Windows 12, AI PCs, etc., they should benefit from that. Now, to be honest, and I've said this in the past already, AI PC this, AI PC that. At the end of the day, we want to buy a good PC, a good laptop that will not cost us an organ, an arm, a leg, or whatever. We want a good one, good chips, good processing power, speed, battery life. If they want to market it as AI PC, AI this, AI that, cool, good for them. But we, the customers, we want options. So it's pretty good for us that finally Intel might have a competitive product, that finally Qualcomm came out and actually made Intel, let's say, dance or work for its money, made AMD come out with something else as well. That's great for us, the customer, because now we have competition, we have options, and probably better pricing as well. Of course, we're all waiting for a highly competitive GPU product that might tackle the NVIDIA dominance issue, hopefully in the coming years. Anyways, continuing here, AMD total revenue over the last 5 years has gone up. Free cash flow, not that much, although we can see some acceleration in the last couple of quarters. As for Intel, this is basically Intel pre the big change. So we've had here gross margins that were around, 60% or so, I would say. And that has dropped down quite drastically. Free cash flow, yes, has grown, peaked here, $7.74 billion. Since then, has gone down. This is basically Intel in the last 4 years. So total client computing group revenue, it's still a lot, right? Compared to what we've seen with AMD. Just this segment alone is still quite a lot. Intel is still a huge, huge company, right? $7.4 billion there, but data center and AI revenue really did not pick up. It peaked here, $6.4 billion Q4 2021. Basically got slashed in half at $3 billion right now. A lot of work to be done around that segment. And of course, what happens when revenue comes down, when you start to invest a little bit more and, well, you don't become more profitable? Free cash flow completely disappears. Now, of course, eventually when revenue will pick back up, of course, 2025 year-over-year comparisons will be much easier because 2024 has been a horrendous year for them. So the year-over-year comparison could look very, very good in 2025. But of course, you want to see the underlying business become much better. You want to see products like Lunar Lake, Gaudi 3 pick up as well, because otherwise, what's the point? Okay, might look good on paper. Oh, year-over-year growth of 30%. Okay, cool. But if you look at the year-over-year growth, the same quarter of the prior year, and you see that that quarter was a horrendous one, then that 30% increase doesn't mean much, right? So we'll see what happens. But anyways, switching here to Lunar Lake, the new chip that should put Intel back into a leadership position. So they've compared themselves here to Qualcomm and AMD. So the Intel machine here has a 72 watt hour battery, while the AMD machine has a 78 one and the Qualcomm one a 71. And as you can see, Intel is beating Qualcomm and AMD quite comfortably. If we look at the gaming aspect compared to an AMD chip and a Qualcomm one, in this case the AMD chip, Intel is 16% better frame rates, and this is on a Samsung Galaxy Book 4 Edge. If we look at Qualcomm, it's 68% better, but they do say here that 23 games didn't even run on ARM, and this is also, of course, one of the challenges that Qualcomm has currently, is that not everything works with ARM. Most things work with, well, x86. They also compare themselves to their own Intel chip, another one, and they see here a 31% improvement. If we look at the AI part, so here they're looking at Lightroom, Premiere Pro, After Effects, stuff like that. You see also some major improvements there. So overall, 58% faster AI performance. Intel Core Ultra processors deliver commanding performance and compatibility leadership in shipping AI applications. It's all about AI. But what you want to see in those reviews from reviewers, from YouTubers, is just basic performance, right? Basic performance for video editing, basic performance for gaming, and then all the AI stuff we can leave on the side. Because if the part one is already good enough, then we're 90% happy, let's be honest. And then all the rest, Copilot, AI stuff, Gemini, Google integrations, whatever, that's a plus, But we want the basics to be right. Then, with regards to the big overview here, this is what you get. Now, the Core Ultra, it's the memory, the RAM is up to 32 gigabytes and lower, not 64. So if you want the 64, I think you will have to wait for Arrow Lake, I believe, which might be coming or might be announced later this year. So overall, this is what you're getting, which in my opinion, for most folks, this is already much better than what we need. And so if we're comparing now energy efficiency, it's 35% more energy efficient than AMD chip and 2x that of a Qualcomm one. Which one? The ones here on the screen. Now, I've also shown you this in the previous video, but I guess not everybody watches the same video, so here it is again. Yes, it's true that AMD and, well, Intel lost some market share, but AMD has definitely picked up some market share. But more recently, it's not like AMD has continued to outperform Intel. Stock-wise, yes, 100%. But here, when you look at distribution of Intel and AMD x86 computer CPU units worldwide, market share-wise, it hasn't really moved much. So the difference between Intel and AMD right now is not that big anymore. And if Intel finally comes out with that leadership product, I can see Intel take that market share back. Not all of it, but some of it. And the same year can be said with the laptops, same story. Yes, AMD took market share from Intel. Intel lost market share to AMD and some others as well. But same thing here over the last 3 years or so. Market share-wise, x86 laptop CPU units worldwide, not much has changed. Now, not much has changed is also true with the horrendous guidance that we keep getting. So this is the Q3 guidance. So yes, expectations for Q3 are extremely low. Like I said in the last video, I don't want them to meet this. I want them to beat it. Now, how much will they beat it? I don't know, but please beat and then provide us with a much better Q4 guidance and maybe even some color on 2025, early 2025, maybe some Gaudi, good news from Gaudi as well. That would be great. And of course, lastly, I will repeat this again and again, even though this is from Q4 2023. So yeah, later this year, this will be a year old. But Intel is not a small fish. Intel is Chipzilla. Intel is huge. If you look here at Global PC, Notebook and Desktop Market Overview by CPU Vendor in Q4 2023, so this is PC shipment units and annual growth by CPU vendors. Intel alone shipped 3x more units than all the rest here combined. So yeah, it's true, the stock is horrendous, the stock is not great. It's true that past chips version products of Intel weren't great either. They had issues. And to be honest, everything that I've showed you here, right? Everything that you've seen on the screen, I'm going over it fast again. All of this is great during a presentation. But as we've seen with Qualcomm, as we've seen with AMD, as we've seen with others, what they show us on the screen is probably their best case scenario. Then when you will look at YouTube reviewers, they will probably show you some other numbers. So it's all about how close are you going to get to these numbers. Eventually, it's about actually seeing some major improvements in the product, some major improvements compared to the last version. And I do think from what I've been seeing, I do think that Lunar Lake might finally be that product for Intel that will bring them back, that will bring them a step closer towards being back the leader of the category. Of course, I can be overly bullish and completely blind and biased, etc., etc. It's true, but that's why I am invested in Intel, because I do believe in the turnaround story. I do believe that Intel and Intel Foundry can be and will be a success in the future. Is it taking more time than expected? Yes. Yes. No doubt about it. But I've seen some comments that were completely ridiculous. Oh, Intel is a $5 stock. That doesn't make much sense. Intel today at $19 is basically priced as if it's going bankrupt. So Intel at $5, do you know how much Intel's equipment costs? That alone is already worth way more than just $5 per share. So ridiculous comments like that, to me, it's no value. If you want to make an argument in the comment section saying, oh, Intel will not move, Intel is dead, Intel is this and that. Write the reasoning behind it. Like this Jamaican YouTuber always says, explain it. So please, do explain it in the comment section below. Now to conclude, Intel still has a long way to go. The stock will do what the stock will do. I want to see the business perform better. I want to see EPS back positive. I want gross margins to be back over 40, closer to 50 even, not just on a non-GAAP basis, but on a GAAP basis as well. I want to see revenue growth year over year, quarter over quarter, free cash flow growth, numbers from Foundry. Are they becoming better? Yes or no? Gaudi 3, are we finally seeing some adoption from that? Yes or no? These are the things I want to see. If the stock stays at $20, but suddenly there is revenue growth, there is free cash flow, there is earnings, gross margins are going up, then of course I will load the boat. But until then, I will just be relaxed, see what the company does, see what management does, see what the stock does. Sometimes if we have ridiculous crashes and dips, then yes, I might be adding here and there. But the big money will only come when I actually see the business move in the right direction. And if you're asking me, will you ever admit you're wrong? 100%, 100%. There will come a time when I'll say, look, you know what? Intel this, Intel that. Opportunity cost is real. And I don't really see how they will figure it out. So I'm out. When that time will come, I will definitely let you know. I have no issues admitting I'm wrong. I've been wrong in the past, and I will be wrong in the future. So there is that. That's for me. I think this video has been going on for far too long, but hopefully it's an interesting one. If you like it, like, subscribe, notification bell on, do all of that, and I see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.